What's going on? Welcome to another live quarantine TV edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. Y'all know we just had a crazy weekend in the sports world, and it's not over yet. There's still a couple of playoff games going down tonight. But before we jump into all of the mayhem, all of the hoopla, let me introduce my co-host, my brother, the one and only Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? I'm super excited to get it going, man. It's a big day to be a New York sports fan, as you can see. We
Mm-hmm.
got a lot to get into. I'm happy that I know we normally record early in the day. I'm glad we pushed it back for this particular reason because we had some great basketball today. We got some boxing to get into, and then we still got some important basketball to be played tonight. So perfect timing to let everybody know where we're at and what's coming up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, you know what? We I was gonna switch it up, but we still gonna start with boxing because last week we had Bruce Carrington on, and he gave us a lot of insight onto last night's fight. Kind of helped us weigh out who could win and how they would be able to win. And actually, it's kind of crazy, but what Shushu said actually wound up being a difference maker in last night's fight. Uh, Let me introduce the players though. Javante Tank Davis against Ryan King Rye Garcia. Good fight. Good fight. I mean, it looked really good actually, all the way up until Ryan had to take a little knee in the seventh. But talk to me about this fight. Were you surprised at the outcome? Or what?
Not at all. You and I were texting prior to the fight. I had Tank knocking him out in the ninth round. We talked so many times about the intellect of Tank Davis's ring IQ. And when he says things like, I'm going to drag you into deep waters and drown you, we know what that meant. I'm going to bring you to parts of the fight that you're not comfortable with. And
Mm-hmm.
as we've highlighted before, the reason I like Tank so much, not only in this fight, but in general, is Tank has fought some pretty good competition and he's been able to adjust in all of those fights. Ryan Garcia doesn't have quite the same resume. Highly, skilled fighter, very talented, but he ain't never been in the ring with a Leo Santa Cruz or a Barrios, you know what I'm saying, or Gamboa when he was younger, or Isak Cruz. These are very good fighters that Tank had to learn how to adjust mid-fight to beat them. And you
Yep.
saw yesterday that the level of competition was just different. I also think that Ryan Garcia didn't do himself any favors by skipping the fight he was supposed to have back in January. And we talked about it then
Yes.
that whether you want to call it a tune-up, whatever it is, you need those type of fights to stay sharp
Mm-hmm.
going into this type of matchup. And Tank again just continued to show us why he's such a special fighter, so gifted. He doesn't just rely on his power, though it is special power as we saw yesterday, but he can
Round
do
two.
it all, man. Yeah. I mean, listen, round one was a feeling out process because both guys respected each other's power. We knew that. We expected that. Round two, Garcia thought, hey, I'm gonna try to rough him up and pressure him to make some mistakes. And in
Mm-hmm.
doing so, it was Garcia who made the mistake and caught the hard left right on the chin and got knocked down. From that moment on, Ryan respected the power so much that he really became very passive over the next few rounds,
Yep.
leading up ultimately to the body shot in the seventh. Uh, Tank Davis is, I mean, the hype for this was, oh, he's going to be the face of boxing. Without a doubt, he is the face of boxing right now. And I think we can have legitimate conversations about him being at the top of the pound for pound list.
Yeah. I gotta agree with everything you just said. And that's why I waited to drop the clip with Bruce Carrington where I asked him, Ryan wins because Tank wins because, and exactly what he said. He said Ryan wins that fight if he can stay the course. And we saw once he got rocked in that second round, the first round one up until that hit, we saw Ryan Garcia being super aggressive. I was like, oh, hold on, we might have a little little bit of a shindig going on tonight. But he got caught slipping, and I would say from that knockdown for and up until about round six, Ryan Garcia looked completely different. He did not expect that punch, and I think we made the connection to Floyd Mayweather last week when we had Shushu on the program. Um, a lot of people underestimate the power and the speed of Floyd Mayweather, and it seemed like Ryan Garcia underestimated the power and the speed of Gervonta Davis. And again, it was like he two completely different fighters from rounds one up until that punch in the knockdown punch in the second to about round six. I saw two completely different fighters. He did try to turn it up a little bit later in six and going into seven. But I think, at that point, Gervonta Davis had Ryan Garcia figured out already, and it was just a matter of when he was going to catch him again. And he caught him right in the solar plexus. That's one of those ones where Ryan Garcia is completely coherent. He knows what's going on. He just can't do anything because there is no wind left. He cannot take in any oxygen. And if you notice, he actually smiled when he got hit to try to act, as if, oh, that didn't really hurt me. Backs up, takes two steps back, and next thing you know, he's dropping down to his knee when he realized, oh shoot, I can't breathe no more. I don't know what's going on here. What happened to me? And nose was bloody at that point, and obviously we know what happens from there. Tank gets the 10 count, fight done, party done.
Yeah, man, and Tank again. Tank sets up punches throughout the fight. Tank does things that only elite fighters can do. For people who might be casual boxing fans, you may not recognize it, you may not see it, but pay attention when you look at the first knockdown, and the clip is obviously circulating all over the place. Mm-hmm. Look how many times Ryan Garcia throws the left hook in the sequence that leads up to him getting knocked down. Tank ducks it every time. And on the broadcast, you could see Tank actually start smiling when he ducks it the last time, because he knew now, not only have you continued to throw this punch, you keep dropping your right hand every time you do it. So I'm watching you do it. Now I get to land a clean shot right on your chin that you never get to see. Same thing with the body shot, a beautiful body shot. He caught Ryan as Ryan was about to punch. So it opened up perfectly. Ryan never got a chance to brace himself for the shot. For those that say, oh, boxing is rigged, it was just a body shot. You've never been punched in the liver or in the gut before. Because if you get punched at the right time, it's knocking all wind up out of you, and you ain't going to want to fight no more. And like you said, even though Ryan knew what was going on, he's looking around like, I can't breathe. It's nothing I can do right now.
Yeah, because he could have definitely. I mean, obviously he needed a little minute to catch his breath, but he could have, I'm sure, continued to fight, because it wasn't a headshot or gut shot to where he was like out cold. He was completely coherent, knew what was going on. He just could not take in oxygen, and when your body cannot take in oxygen, it is hard for you to do much of anything. And again, you said it perfectly. Gervonta Davis set him up so lovely for that knockout punch. And I don't even think he knew it was going to be the knockout punch, but he kept going under. He was watching. And if you notice, Gervonta kind of nudged him back. And when he nudged Ryan back and saw Ryan going to swing, and he just, that little bit, because depending on what angle, you're looking at it at, you can't even see the punch coming. But it took me, I had to wait till they changed the camera angles a couple of times to notice what Tank did. He backed him up, nudged him, got him to back up, and waited for Ryan to lift that arm, and then boom, catches him right in the solar plexus. Good night. End of fight. That is it. We have a new face of boxing, and his name is Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yeah, when he caught him with the shot, I said it in a moment. I didn't think he hurt him to the point of ending the fight. But I said he hurt him because when you watch the replay, you see Ryan right arm immediately like pinned against his body. It was a natural reaction, like, oh, like he knew he felt something there. But obviously, as the seconds went on, that's when he really realized he hurt me right now, and I can't keep going.
Yes. So let me ask you this now. Now that I think it's pretty clear. I would love to see a rematch. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would love to see a rematch, but if we don't get a Tank rematch, where does Ryan Garcia go from here? Where does Tank Davis go from here?
For Ryan Garcia, he's going up to 140. Even on fight night, as you know, both these guys rehydrated up to about 144 pounds. Ryan is naturally bigger than Tank, not only taller, but body mass, he's a little heavier as well. So I think his progression up to 140 is a natural progression for him. He'll get some good fights up there, and he'll get a chance again to try to see if he can step up to the competition at 140. We know the elite guys at 140 and 147 are Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. So he's not on that level, but you try to work your way and right, you try to see if you can get yourself in a mix with some of the big names. So I think him moving up to 140 is what's next for him.
Okay. Yeah. I'm very intrigued now to see Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. I think that fight is gonna be even better than what we just saw last night. And again, I don't want to make it seem like Ryan Garcia didn't look good, because I thought Ryan Garcia actually, did very well in the fight. That's why I said I would love to see them go back at it. I like those wars in boxing where you had a good fight. Tank got the knockout, but I would still watch that fight again. But if we don't go back the Ryan Garcia route, if we don't get that rematch in, then Shakur Stevenson, I want to see it. And I felt like I sat last night and watching the fight, and before it started, like I was just thinking to myself, I was like, hold up, we're actually getting Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis. Like I was shocked for a second that we actually got a fight that we wanted, and two, that's a mega fight. Even though obviously I would have loved, the belts to be on the line, but listen, we can't have it all. So now I think it's time. I think boxing, are they finally starting to get it and say, all right, you know what? We have to start making these fights happen in order for the sport to thrive.
Yeah, I think Ryan's made a great point leading up to the fight where he said we're going to be the guys that show other boxers that it can be done, that you can get in the ring with other superstars, that you can make a lot of money, and that, not more importantly, that the people will support it. It was a packed venue last night. I'm sure when we see the pay-per-view numbers in the next couple of days, we're going to be amazed by how many pay-per-view buys there were for this fight. And I think it will encourage the other bigger names to do the same thing and realize that, one, you want to be the best in the sport, but you also want to be compensated for being the best. You want to be paid like it. And so on the front end, I believe both these guys were making well over 10 million guaranteed for the fight. That was before, again, any pay-per-view buys, any revenue splits of merchandise and all that type of stuff. So if that number climbs, and let's say both these guys end up, somewhere in the range of 30 to 40 million for this fight, I think that's going to be very encouraging for other big names to want to fight as well, knowing that they will be compensated for their skill, as opposed to, oh, I'm a big name, but I'm fighting on a non-pay-per-view, or I'm fighting in a venue that isn't the MGM Grand. It can be done, and these guys have just shown that.
Absolutely. The other thing is, I'm sure the pay-per-view numbers are going to come in great, and for this to not even be a title fight, I'm sure the pay-per-view numbers are still going to come in great, because my entire feed last night up until the knockout was Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. That was everything that anybody was typing about on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It was all Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis. Again, and I love that for the sports. I hope we continue to get these fights. We do have a big fight coming up on May 6th with Canelo Alvarez, who is going to be defending his undisputed middleweight championship. I think this is going to be another goodie. We can run through it really quick, just because he's going to be fighting John Ryder. I think Canelo kind of handles this one pretty easily, but we did see Canelo take a loss, a surprising loss that we didn't think he would have taken not too long ago. So I'm not going to completely just say it's going to be Tank, but I'm gonna say it's about 80-20 for me right now in favor of Canelo.
Yeah, I mean, well, a couple of things. I mean, when he went up and fought Bivol, obviously he was going up in weight, and we saw as that fight went on, he did look a little fatigued. He looked a little gassed as the second half of that fight took place. But in this case, this was, John Ryder is not the name everybody wants to see, but this is a mandatory title defense.
Yes.
If not, then Canelo would have had to vacate those belts. And ultimately, this is the prelude to the mega fight for Canelo and Benavidez, possibly in September. Benavidez, after he beat Plant, has now become the mandatory challenger for the winner of this fight. So for Canelo, it's a little bit of a tune-up, but it's also just, I got to handle my business, because if I don't take this fight, then I got to vacate the belts. And that knocks a little bit of the luster off the Benavidez fight then, because then now Benavidez could say, well, I don't want to fight Canelo because I want the belts now. If somebody else got the belts, let me go get them. So now Canelo's protecting what's his, but ultimately setting up the mega fight with Benavidez.
And again, that's where the big payday is going to come. Anyway,
Right.
everyone that both of those guys, obviously it won't be the biggest payday for Canelo, but I believe for Benavidez, it'll be his biggest payday in the sport. So listen, we got a lot of boxing. You mentioned last week this is prime time for boxing. These next couple of months, we're gonna see a lot of big fights. We got Lomachenko right after the Canelo fight. Lomachenko is going to be back in the ring versus Devin Haney, another goodie. Tyson Fury has just said he's looking to defend his title in July. So these next couple of months in the sport of boxing should be very interesting. So stay tuned. We'll probably bring another one of our boxing friends back on the show as we start getting to these upcoming fights, because it is going to be a big couple of months for boxing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that Devin Haney Lomachenko fight, there's a lot there because one, obviously, Devin Haney is the undisputed champion of the lightweight division. But if he wins there, and he is the betting favorite, I think him and Tank are kind of headed down the same path because his dad recently made some comments about Tank leading up to this Garcia fight. Adrian Broner has talked a lot about the world renowned and the world famous sparring session between Haney and Tank.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those guys are on a collision course. If Devin Haney handles his business May 20th, I would not be surprised if we hear those guys start the flirtation of when can we get it on and what date can we set.
Absolutely. All right. Let's get to the NBA, the playoffs. There's a lot going on right now. We gonna start. I should have worn my Lakers hat for this segment because we had somebody who doesn't have the resume or the skills to talk the way he talks. And he thought, and I'm gonna say his name, Dylan Brooks. He thought it was a good idea to talk crazy about LeBron James. The all-time leading scorer, four-time NBA champion, four-time Finals MVP, LeBron James. He thought it was a good idea to talk crazy about LeBron in the press conference. Called him old. Told him he don't respect nobody unless they put up 40 on him. I said he likes. First of all, I'm gonna pause him right now because he said he liked to poke the bear. I'm gonna have to pause that statement right there. But yeah, but it didn't end up well for him. Dylan Brooks actually didn't even get to finish the game because he was wound up being ejected from the game. But the Lakers came into this game and they broke a playoff record for points in the first quarter of that game. They ended the first quarter 35-9. And it seemed like the entire Lakers team took those those comments to heart, and they went to war for their brother, the leader of that team, LeBron James, and now they look to tomorrow take a 3-1 series lead because they pretty much game 3 that was over with. Shout out to John Morant because John Morant balled out, but the rest of them guys, it was ugly.
Well, first and foremost, this is why we said guys like Dylan Brooks have to watch their words because when you're not that guy, when you're not that caliber player and you quote unquote poking the bear, we expect you to respond accordingly. You got to be ready to go when the ball tips. And he obviously wasn't. He can't match that level of production. You can't go 5 for 14 and then talk crazy as if like you was really putting in a lot of work on the court. You hit a couple threes and that was it. Now you put your team, a very inexperienced Memphis team who under John Morant has only won one playoff series win, in a tough spot now where they got to live up to the words that Dylan Brooks, a guy who's not the best player, not the second best player, not the third best player on that team, a scenario and words that he's created now in a situation he's created where they're facing former champion, an all-time great in Braun, an all-time great in Anthony Davis, who now have made this series personal. And yesterday's score indicates how personal it was for the Lakers. They knew what was up. Oh, okay. Y'all won game 2. Y'all talking big. Now let's get back to LA and see what's going on. And Memphis is also suffering from something that a team in the East, we're going to talk about them later, suffers from. They ain't got no bench. And guess what? The Lakers have a pretty well-rounded team, as we've highlighted with the trades that Pelinka made. Now they got some more pieces off the bench so that they can alleviate some of the minutes on Braun and AD. They got some guys that can, for a possession or two, hold it down so that Braun ain't got to facilitate everything for the whole game. But Memphis ain't got that. Memphis was already short-handed with a couple guys missing with Clark and Steven Adams. Now you got Ja a little banged up. You're looking at a scenario where your team ain't really as talented as the one you're facing, and you're talking pretty crazy, Dylan Brooks. I think it's going to be 1, 2, 3 Cancun for them very soon, Trip.
Yeah, and again, you like it's like you do realize that you don't even have home court advantage when you're making these comments anymore. So you've already lost home court because the Lakers came in and won game one. So you don't have that going for yourself. You're talking crazy to a guy who, first of all, you should wish you could get to that point in your career. You might not make it past 10 years, let alone 20 years in this league. And in your 20th year in the league, you are still a top 7 player in the NBA. You're not even a top 75 player right now in the NBA. And you talking crazy. And if you notice with Dylan Brooks, one thing about Dylan Brooks is no one speaks about Dylan Brooks and what he does on the court. When we speak about Dylan Brooks, it is because he either said something outlandish, he done wore something outlandish to the games, or he's getting involved in some mess. But we never have spoken about Dylan Brooks like, yo, did you see the 40 piece Dylan Brooks just dropped last night? Yo, did you see my man Dylan Brooks just scored a triple double? Yo, did you see him do this? We don't talk about Dylan Brooks' game on the court. When we speak about Dylan Brooks, there's always some mess outside of the game. This one got really ugly for Memphis early, to the point where, again, Dylan Brooks has nothing to do with him on the court. He goes and punches LeBron in the nuts. And gets themselves kicked out of the game. He said, "You know what? I we getting our butts kicked so bad. I got to do something to get up out of here." And he winds up getting a flagrant 2, punching LeBron James in the groin, and he gets himself ejected. So he's not even there for the to really take this L. But that's what it is when we speak about Dylan Brooks. All we talk about is the antics, the off court stuff, the talking crazy to people, and again, you have not accomplished anything. You are not even an all-star. And I said this, a couple of months ago when they were going back and forth with LA, when they were going back and forth with the Warriors. In reality, Ja Morant is a superstar talent. He is one of those guys, right? He's going to continue to do well. But as of right now, Ja Morant has not even really accomplished much in the NBA for the talk that comes from the Memphis Grizzlies players. So if Ja Morant has not accomplished much, what do you think about Dylan Brooks? Dylan Brooks has not accomplished anything, for him to talk the way he does, and he got embarrassed. He put his foot in his mouth. He looked like he was crying on the bench when they held the camera on him when the score was like 35-9 at the end of the first. They held the camera on him. He looked like his eyes was watering, like he was about to cry. And then after the game, he said he didn't want to speak to nobody, so he wasn't talking no more after the game.
He should have thought about not talking before the game. My apologies, I'm trying to correct something here, but yeah, he should have thought about not talking before the game. But yeah, we've talked about a Trip. All these things and all this trash talk that comes out of Memphis. There's gonna be a clip that's gonna get played in about a week when this series is over. And they're going to have to eat them words and stand on that, because remember when they said we ain't worried about nobody in the West?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Josh said he good in the West.
Right. We good in the West. We ain't worried about nobody in the West. When Dylan Brooks said, I can't wait to be the one to eliminate Braun. Mm-hmm. Right. And then these comments, and then don't forget Dylan Brooks and Unc getting to it on the sidelines. All these things, it's going to be a video montage that they're going to play to an NBA 101 of these are the things you don't do when you a young up and coming team.
Yes.
You don't do this. You don't joke about, oh, I love to poke. I poke the bear. That's what I do. All right. Well, I mean, you could poke a lot of bears' paws when the season's over, because it's coming to an end for you very quickly. So we're gonna see how this next one plays out in LA.
Yeah, and like this reminds me, and I got to go back to Ruben Patterson. Remember Ruben Patterson used to play for the Trailblazers? Well, he had the unmitigated gall to proclaim himself as the Kobe stopper.
Yep.
And rest in peace to the late great Kobe Bean Bryant. But I think we all saw how that one worked out, and it wasn't in Ruben Patterson's favor.
Not at all.
So keep that in mind, young teams. When you out here, don't get beside yourself. When you see these all-time great teams that win multiple championships in multiple years, they don't even be talking the way the Memphis Grizzlies talk, and they could talk that way. You don't see Golden State talking crazy. When Braun was in Miami and they was going to the finals every year, they wasn't out here talking like the Memphis Grizzlies was out here talking. So when the Lakers was 3-peating, when the Bull, these guys are not out here talking the way that these young kids are talking. And the part that makes it worse is they have not accomplished much of anything. So it's ridiculous.
It
You know,
is.
the way these guys talk to not have accomplished nothing, and now again you don't have home court advantage. You've given the Lakers everything they need to go in now and win Game 4 at home, and I don't once that happens, I don't see you guys winning 3 straight games against this Lakers team. It's honestly it's probably going to end in Memphis in Game 5 at this point, because the Memphis Grizzlies, one thing I will say, they're a good team, but we saw 2 different teams, right, from Game 2 and Game 3. When Ja Morant is on the court, nobody else can get into a rhythm because it's all about Ja Morant. That's why they won Game 2. In Game 2, there was no pressure on nobody. Everybody they can get their reps in during the game, and they played a good basketball game, were able to beat the Lakers. We came back to Game 3. It was the same thing all over again. It was all about Ja Morant. Ja Morant had an amazing game, one of the better player performances I have seen, but the team did not play well together. Everybody else was cold because it is all about Ja. That's something that they may need to look into changing. I know they don't have a legit number 2 scoring option. Jaren Jackson is supposed to be their number 2, but he's more of a defensive presence. He's not somebody who's putting up 25 to 28 points every night for you. So it is really Ja Morant, but you have to get these other guys into a little bit of a rhythm so that they can help you. If not, you're going to have guys like Dylan Brooks jacking up threes, going 5 for 14 from the field, and not doing much of anything.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis got a couple issues, as I mentioned, though, that their lack of depth really is hurting them in this series, because the Lakers is such a better, well-rounded team in terms of,
Yes.
like I said, the pieces they can bring off the bench, the lineups they can present. Memphis just doesn't have that flexibility. And in terms of, like you said, creating a shot and all that, Ja really is their only guy who creates offense, right? Desmond Bane can shoot. Jaren Jackson, obviously, he gave you a 30-point game earlier this series. He can score, but none of those guys can facilitate and like create the offense. It has to be Ja that creates it. And then when you
Yes.
don't have the depth, like you said, you have moments where if Ja isn't on the court, you're going to struggle. You're not going to score. So they got a lot of things they got to figure out. But barring an injury, I do think this series is over. I think Lakers take care of this. It might go 6, but I don't see right now, we're 3 games in. I don't see Memphis finding a way to win 3 out of the next 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. Um, the other LA team, Clippers, down 3-1 in the series. After winning a very competitive Game 1, but I think the bigger story is Kawhi Leonard. He's missed now the last 2 games, and they're saying they don't know when or if he'll be back. Going back to Phoenix, if Kawhi Leonard does not play, I don't see the Clippers winning another game on the road. Now, we're talking about being down not one but two superstars. I don't see it happening. Um, I do want to give Russell Westbrook his flowers because he has played some of the best basketball that I've seen him play probably since his MVP season. These last two games, trying to carry the team, and he's actually been keeping these games competitive. But if it, do the Clippers have any chance of winning this next game if Kawhi Leonard doesn't play?
I mean, they got the same chance that we would have of winning the game against the Suns. It ain't happening. It's
Hold on,
over.
hold on, hold on. Because if me and you was out there, you know what I'm
Oh, we
saying?
we gonna get buckets. Don't get me wrong,
Okay, okay, all
but
right.
but I don't know which one of us is guarding KD. Like,
No, I'm not
uh,
gonna go. I ain't gonna do it.
yeah, right. So, but it's over. It's over. I mean, I think we felt Phoenix was the better team before the series ever started. We thought the Clippers could be competitive because we have a lot of respect. At least I know I do. I have a lot of respect for Ty Lue, for
Mhm,
Kawhi, for Russ,
absolutely.
and they got some other quality pieces, right? If they have Kawhi, all those other pieces fall in line because you do have Eric Gordon, you do have Bones Highland, you do have Zubac. So you got some guys that can fill in and score. But
Mhm,
without Kawhi, now it's a major drop off in talent. Now Russ is your best player. You know what I'm saying? Now Eric Gordon got to be the Eric Gordon of 10 years ago. And that ain't just happening. So I think it's over for them. I think the Clippers are going to have a really hard discussion this offseason because since Kawhi has been there, he hasn't taken them past the second round of the playoffs. Their best playoff run was actually without Kawhi 2 years ago when Paul George took them to the Western Conference Finals and they lost to Phoenix. So,
crazy.
for as great as Kawhi is, he is unreliable at this point. He is rarely available, and you can't build a championship team when your best player is missing half the season. I mean, this is why they low managed him all year, right? So he could be fresh for the playoffs, and yet in the first round of the playoffs, he played the first two games, and that was it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, coming out of game one, I said, hold up, we might have a little bit of a series. I thought this was gonna look with, especially with Paul George not playing. I thought we were going to see Phoenix as clearly the better team going into this series, and I did not feel that way after games one and two. I honestly I thought it was pretty even for Phoenix to have a big four, and to the Clippers to have Kawhi and Westbrook, and not Westbrook, like I mentioned, not MVP level Westbrook. Them first two games, those two teams look really close. And even when Kawhi goes down and it's just Russell Westbrook, the games were still a lot closer than I felt like they should have been up until late in this last game. I think Phoenix kind of pulled away in like the last couple of minutes, but up until that point, the game was very close. Westbrook was keeping them in there, doing everything he possibly could. Um, I, I don't know how I feel now about Phoenix, going forward. I know obviously, different teams, different matchups, so things, can look different. But, whereas I felt like Phoenix was a heavy favorite to come out of the West, I kind of have brought them back down a little bit because, they've struggled against a team where Westbrook is the number one player, and he's not even the best version that we've seen of Russell Westbrook.
I mean, yeah, to be fair though, Phoenix had only played 8 games in the regular season with KD leading up to that game one. So there was going to be a little bit of, I don't want to use the word rust, but there was going to be that uncertainty there where it's like, all right, where should I be on the court? Who likes to pass where, things like that. And then also Ty Lue. Ty Lue's an amazing coach, and Ty Lue's going to throw things at you that you probably weren't prepared for. And that's why game one worked out great for them. But I still think it's barring injury, every series pretty much in the West, they're gonna have the best player on the court. No disrespect to Joker, no disrespect to the two guys in LA, no disrespect to Sacramento or Golden State, who we're gonna get to in a second. But KD is the best player in every series that they enter. And so they're going to have a chance to beat every team that they play, and they just got to stay healthy. This Clipper situation is a little unique. Russ has been amazing. Russ has given the Clippers a lot of energy, and obviously he has extra motivation because him and KD had their little rivalry for years. Him and CP3 haven't always got along, so he would love nothing more than to possibly knock them out of the playoffs. But moving forward, I think Phoenix is going to be fine. And the more games they play together, the more comfortable KD's going to look.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I think Phoenix, the problem with Phoenix, two things. They lost some of their depth in that Kevin Durant trade, and they lost a lot of their defense in that Kevin Durant trade. And that's why a Clippers team with Russell Westbrook as the number one guy is able to put up 124 points on you. It is what it is. I
We
think
got
they'll
some
be
great questions
really.
coming in too.
Yeah, I see. We're gonna get to the Warriors King series in just a minute because that series has been crazy. But yeah, they moving forward, they better get this thing locked up because you may not have the benefit of going up against a team that's lost two superstars. So you better get it together really fast. Let me go back. I'm gonna go up to Lene's question really quick, or her comment first, and then I'm gonna get to Boomman Williams. Lene says, "Isn't it an honor and pleasure to watch Steph Curry play? The last two games I've been in awe. When y'all get time to talk Kings Warriors, well, we are going to talk Kings
We got time now.
Warriors. Right, yeah, we got time now to talk Kings and Warriors. Game that literally went down to the wire. Yes, it is an honor to watch Steph Curry. However, he definitely pulled the Chris Webber today and almost cost the Golden State Warriors a game that they should, that they needed to win. They definitely needed to win. But go ahead, Eric. I'll let you talk about Golden State and what they were able to accomplish. One without Draymond Green in Game 3, and then coming back in Game 4 to even up the series.
Yeah, it's Steph is amazing to watch just because even the bad shots you think are going in. That's how great of a shooter he is. That shots that any other player would take, and you would throw your hands up like, "What are you doing?" With Steph, we still keep watching because like that is as long as it's up, it's got a shot. But in terms of the Warriors Kings, I know we're gonna get to Boo Man's comment in a second because he's absolutely right. The Kings' lack of playoff experience has come into play. All they had to do was go into Golden State and win one of those games, and I think the series would have been over. If they win just one of them, with as bad as Golden State is on the road, I think the series would have been over. But now they have given the Warriors second life. All the Warriors have to do is find a way to win one of these next two games in Sacramento, because Game 5 or Game 7 are going to be there. And I think Golden State, if they find a way to win Game 5, it's over in 6. I think they're going to finish it back at home. The Kings blew a golden opportunity, and now all the pressure is on Sacramento to produce at home because, again, the Warriors just need to find a way to win one of those games in Sacramento.
Yeah, absolutely. You could tell inexperience in Game 4 because this is a game that Sacramento could have won. You had the chance. I mentioned, Steph Curry pulling the Chris Webber, calling the timeout when there was no timeout left, and that giving not only a technical free throw shot to Sacramento, they also got possession, were able to bring the game back to a 1-point game. But again, a couple of bad shots down the stretch. You got to be in that situation. You're down by one. You had time on the clock. You gotta get inside the paint. You got to get to the basket. Try to get the foul called. Taking a three. If you make it, great, but you got to take a high percentage shot in that situation. You're only down by 1 point. You don't need to take a 3-pointer in that situation. There was a couple of possessions before that where they took a three and missed it, and it's like you don't have to jack up threes right now in this moment. The game is very close. There's not much separating the game, especially after the tech. There's not much separating you two teams. You had the chance to win this game and you didn't. I said after the Warriors won Game 3 without Draymond Green, I said this series is over. The Warriors got this. The veteran champions that are the Golden State Warriors are going to win this series now. Sabonis did not do enough on the offensive side of the ball. Pretty much, I think he had one game where he played well so far this series. But other than that, Sabonis has got to step up. If Sabonis just gives us the average that he's scoring, his regular season point average, the Sacramento Kings win this game. That's literally all it would have took. He's got to step up. It can't be just De'Aaron Fox. Shout out to Malik Monk. He's played very well, but it can't just be De'Aaron Fox, and he's played amazing this series. But I think this thing is over. I'm gonna be honest with you, Eric. I think this thing is over in 6 games. I don't see Sacramento winning another game.
My fault there. It's going to be tough. They're going back home. It's going to be an emotional game, so I expect them to put their best foot forward. I mean, they didn't stink up the joint today. Obviously, it came down to a final shot. They could have possibly won that game, and we're having a different conversation. But I think that Sabonis has struggled with Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney's a crafty defensive player, and Sabonis has produced. He just hasn't put up the numbers that he did during the regular season, and we've seen other young guys do that as well. Remember, for Sabonis, this is really his first integration into playoff basketball. He was on some Pacer teams that really weren't that good. So I don't want to be too harsh on what I will say though. That last possession, you're right about that. Not only about taking a three, but it wasn't one of your two best players who actually took the shot. It wasn't Fox or Sabonis. It ended up being Barnes getting the shot. You would definitely want a better possession there if you're Mike Brown. You would want a better quality shot from one of your better two guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Ron, man. It's good to see you back, Ron. Klay Thompson is maybe back. I say 90% of himself. Pause. I'm gonna say his defense has slipped a little, but Klay is back. Yeah, it looks like well, at least on the offensive end, right? And here's why I say that, because if this was Game 6 Klay, the Klay that we were used to before the back-to-back season-ending injuries, Klay Thompson is guarding De'Aaron Fox,
Right.
or he's guarding Malik Monk. If they're both in the game, then he's going to take one of those two guys. So as far as on the defensive end, I don't think Klay Thompson is there yet. Offensively, I mean, I don't even know if offensively he ever really left, because he's still been able to shoot the lights out. But Klay would have been guarding one of those two guys, which
Yeah.
would have been a big boost for Golden State.
Yeah, his defense is never going to get back to where it was. I mean, we got to remember he's in his 30s. A lot of playoff miles on him because they went to 6 NBA finals. They've had multiple deep playoff runs. So I don't think defensively he'll ever get back to that. Also, you got to remember too, at that age and coming off those type of injuries, you kind of conserve a little bit of the defensive side so that you have the energy for the offensive side. He's just can't give you both at this point. But I think Klay is back, and we see it every night. He had a great game 2 sequence as well late in the game where they were actually running their offense through Klay. It wasn't even Steph getting the shots. It was all Klay at the end of game 2. So I think he is back. And I think he's in position to help this team make a run, because I agree with you, as you said, Trip. I think Golden State's going to win the series.
Absolutely. Let me go to. I'm gonna take Latina's comment, and I'm gonna get Boom Man and Ron, and then we gonna get over to the Knicks. We gotta talk to the Knicks. We gotta talk New York
Yeah,
basketball.
do we have to talk about the Knicks?
We gotta talk about it, Eric. All right, we're gonna talk Knicks basketball. You want to take this one?
Yeah. Jordan Poole's good player and help, but don't it seem like he takes terrible shots and throws the ball away at horrible times? How y'all think Wiggins looks with no ramp up? So I like both parts of those, Latina, because Jordan Poole is the opposite of what we were saying about Steph. When Jordan Poole was chucking up wild shots, you throwing up your arms in the air like, yo, what are you thinking right now? Get the ball to Steph, get the ball to Klay. He's a guy, he's still very young, still very raw. His game has developed quite a bit, but you're absolutely right. He still is not at the point that you can really trust him late in games, because defensively he gives you nothing, and offensively he can really be hit or miss. He can be one of them guys that when he's on, he can shoot your lights out, but when he's off, he can shoot you right out of a game. I think Andrew Wiggins has looked better in game 3 and 4. I think some of that is getting his legs back under him. In game 2, he had a terrible corner 3 that hit the side of the backboard that you could tell, like, he just, he wasn't fully integrated back into the team offense. But I think the last 2 games he's been better. His legs are under him, and I think he's closer now to what he was last playoffs. Not quite there yet, but getting closer to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing it game by game. Because again, these really are his first couple of games. Getting back in, he got to get his sea legs back. You have to get. He's in shape, but you still got to get in the playing shape and get back on the court. Games 1 and games 2 was very shaky. Games 3 and games 4, he looked a lot better. Another reason why I say this series is over, because now we have Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is probably their best 2-way player on the team, because again, Klay Although he's back to Clay offensively, defensively he's not the same Clay Thompson, and Draymond Green is not. Well, he's never been that great of an offensive player, but even as far as defense goes, he's not defensive player of the year, Draymond Green anymore. But them having Andrew Wiggins is going to be a big boost. Um, 1 second, froze me out real quick. But yeah, let me switch this up. Eric, take it for a second.
Got you, man. Yeah,
Wait,
I agree though. I think Wiggins is getting closer to being back. He gives them a lot more versatility now with him back, and they're able to play Gary Payton as well, who's another good perimeter defender. So the Warriors are looking good, man. I think the Kings blew a golden opportunity, and the Warriors, I think, are going to make them pay for that.
yeah, if you're Sacramento, a young team like this, and you're going up against the champs, a game like this where you have the chance to win, you have to win this game. That is going to be the reason why you lose this series. It's bad enough you lost without Draymond in game 3, but now you come back. And again, this is a game where had this been a complete blowout, Golden State, wins by 20 points, then I think, maybe Sacramento come back, win game 5. Because when you get beat down like that, what I'm saying, that it just does something to you. But the fact that this was such a close heartbreaker of a loss for them. I don't think they bounce back. I think it's pretty much over. Golden State is going to win this. The journeyman do it again in this series as well. Let me just go back to Boom Man's comment, and then we're going to get Ron, and we're going to go straight to the Knicks. I think the problem with the Suns is they're too top heavy and no production from the bench. I agree. I said that earlier. I said the problem is they traded away their depth in the Kevin Durant trade, and they also traded away their defense. So it's pretty much the big four, and that's it. That's why you seeing these guys, even while playing against a battered and beat down Clippers team, you're still seeing Kevin Durant playing 40 minutes. Devin Booker playing 40 minutes. Aiton's playing about 37, 38 minutes. Same thing with Chris Paul. They don't have a bench. So these guys have to play big minutes. And that's, I believe, if they don't win this thing, it's going to be that. It's going to be the wear and tear because the big four are going to have to play so many extra minutes that if they had a little bit of depth that could kind of help stretch things out and keep them fresh. But it's going to be a problem as we get into the later rounds.
Yeah, I mean, game 3, KD and Booker both played well over 40 minutes, which shows you what Monty Williams thinks of his bench. That in round 1, he's already stretching his best players to play 40 plus minutes. We got to see how that progresses throughout the playoffs because, again, this is just round 1. It gets tougher as you go. But yeah, that's what you sacrifice when you try to create these super teams, quote unquote, because you got to give up something to get a guy. And you're going to have to give up a lot. And I've never been a fan of trying to create teams through the trade. If you can draft certain players, if you can make certain free agency moves, I get it. But when you got to gut your roster the way they did, they gave up multiple guys who were key parts of their rotation. Obviously, Bridges and Johnson. But then you give up all these draft picks. You can't really make any other moves. You saw game 1, they had no Cameron Payne, so they had to run Devin Booker as kind of the pseudo backup point when Chris Paul went to the bench. They're really thin, man. What they could be one injury away from just going home.
Yeah. And listen, if just going by what we've seen in the previous years, once you get into that second round, I don't know, Chris Paul still tend to start slowing down the past couple of years. And you're going to need Chris Paul because we see the difference in game 1. Chris Paul had 7 points. When Chris Paul was start putting up a couple of points, then they start winning games. But in the later games, when we start getting to them later rounds, we're gonna see how that wear and tear, does. Yeah, Devin Booker is definitely showing out. They gonna need a lot more of Devin Booker showing out if they're going to win this thing. Last one really quick. Let me throw Ron's last comment before we get to the Knicks. I know the Lakers won last night, but Ja Morant showed he can play on that hand. So don't be shocked if Memphis evens it up. I would be shocked if they even it up, to be honest with you. Because again, I said earlier, when Ja Morant is playing, the team is too much Ja Morant everything. And the other guys can't get any type of anything going for themselves. And they wound up losing. And I think This is not regular season where you're playing a different team every night. This is the playoffs where you're playing the same team every other night or every other 2 nights, and teams are going to study you. They know what it is, and they know, all right, you know what? Who cares? Let John Morant score 38. You're gonna need a lot more than 38 points to beat us, though.
Yeah, for Memphis, it's lack of depth as well as we talked about with some other teams. But those role players they fed off the adrenaline in game two. Without Ja playing at home, the crowd, the energy there kind of carried them. And historically, we've always seen that role players play better at home in the playoffs. They
Mhm.
struggle on the road. Game four is on the road, so I don't think you're going to see a great game from Xavier Tillman again in the series. I don't think you're going to get anything from some of these other role player guys. Jaren Jackson's going to give you what he got. Ja's going to do what he does because those are your two best players. But these other role players are guys that you really need to step up because again, the Lakers have a deeper team right now than Memphis. And I would be shocked, honestly, if Memphis could win game four in LA with that roster that they currently have.
Yeah, like if you telling me this is game 5 and they're going back to Memphis, okay, maybe. I,
Right.
I I'd be shocked if they win game 4 in LA. I just
Yeah.
I really
I,
would.
I yeah, like you said, I wouldn't be shocked if Memphis goes home and wins game five. And
Yeah.
again, you ride the emotion and the energy of the home crowd, but on the road, that's going to be a very tense game for Memphis
Mhm.
because they're going to know our backs are kind of up against the wall. Dylan Brooks has kind of put us in a tough spot with the trash talk now because now we got to kind of carry him throughout this. That might be one of them games that if the Lakers jump out on them early again, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers just run them out the gym by halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The moment that Mr. Sanchez has been waiting for this entire day. Let's talk New York basketball. You got your Knicks shirt on. The Knicks are looking good right now. They really are. They got this thing 3-1 going back to Cleveland. I'm gonna let you have your just do, Eric. Go ahead. I'm gonna put you on a solo shot. Hold up.
As a
Let me get you.
listen,
Let me get.
man,
Hold on. Wait. Let me get your camera ready. Let me get your camera ready. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
listen, man. As a guy who has enjoyed many a nights at the Garden and hanging out. Shout out to the Garden. Shout out to the family over at the Garden. They always show us a great time trip. You know who I'm talking
Yes,
about,
sir.
right? If you've never been to the Garden, it might be tough for you to understand the energy within Madison Square Garden, even when the team is bad. But if you watch the playoff games on Friday and then earlier today, you got to witness it firsthand. That is what New York City basketball looks like. That's what it sounds like. It's intense. It's loud. It can be scary for some guys. And I think Darius Garland is a little scared of the crowd. We saw he struggled in game three. And aside from his outburst today in the third quarter, he didn't really play well today. I think Donovan Mitchell was a little bit scared of the crowd. And I think now that Knicks have a complete chokehold on this series, I would love for the Knicks to go close this out on Wednesday in Cleveland. But if we don't, and we come back home for game six, that crowd is going to be even more intense than it was today. This series is over. Donovan Mitchell is an amazing player. He's doing everything he can. But when you got guys like Cedi Osman and Ricky Rubio and Danny Green coming off your bench, that lets me know all I need to know about your team. That's not a championship caliber team. They're not beating the Knicks. The Knicks are a deeper team. The Knicks have more talent. And Jalen Brunson in this series is outplaying Donovan Mitchell again, which he did last year in the playoffs when they both were in the West. Jalen Brunson, the Knicks moving on. This series is over, man.
Um, sir, I'm gonna give the New York Knickerbockers their flowers right now. I'm just gonna do it. Shout out to the New York Knicks. Um, maybe the most underrated move of the offseason, bringing in Jalen Brunson, who and I texted to you the other day. I said I'm pretty sure Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic are kicking themselves right now at the fact that they did not re-sign a great kid who they could have gotten for cheaper than what they're going to have, a lot cheaper than what they're going to have to pay for Kyrie Irving if they even hope to have a chance of keeping him. That's number one. Number two, Josh Hart, who they picked up right before the trade deadline. Those two guys back together again because they were teammates in college. Those two guys back together again. They look very formidable. Julius Randle struggled a little bit today, but I know he is dealing with the ankle issue. But this team as a whole, the Knicks. When you want to talk about depth, The Knicks might be one of the, if not the deepest team in basketball. The guys that they have coming off the bench, and again, Obi's not putting up 20 a night, but Obi is putting up effective minutes quickly. He struggled a little bit today, but for the most part, he's been putting up effective minutes coming off the bench. I got to shout out my guy from Duke Blue Devils, RJ Barrett. He has stepped it up. He had a game today for the New York Knicks. With Hartenstein coming off the bench, giving them big minutes. Um, and Jalen Brunson, man, he's just been incredible. One other thing I gotta say, and this is a nod to Coach Tibbs. The New York Knicks defense in this series has been nothing short of amazing. When you're talking about a superstar, I'm bumping Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell's a superstar. And you hold him to 1 for 9 from the field in the fourth quarter of a very, very pivotal game 4. Because again, if Cleveland wins this game, and they made a little run in the third, but if they win this game, now you're going back to Cleveland with the series tied at 2-2. That changes things. It's hard to go and win 3 straight games against a team that has been studying you already for 4 straight games and are going to continue to have more and more tape on you as we move forward. I think the Cavaliers were defeated today mentally more so than anything. Jalen Brunson just kept knocking down not only Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and RJ Barrett knocked down shot after shot after shot after shot. All critical shots they were making. Anytime Cleveland thought about doing anything, one of those guys came back and made a big shot. You got to tip your hat to the New York Knickerbockers. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think they close this thing out in 5.
Trip, I had to fight back tears right now. I almost got emotional hearing you talk about the Knicks. No, the people need to know this, Trip. The other day, Trip, other day on Facebook, I've said it plenty of times. The clip's out there, but I'm always gonna say it because I always thank you. You gave me my first television opportunity. And the other day on Facebook, it reminded me that it was 7 years since my first appearance on Real Fans Real Talk.
Yeah.
7 years, man. 7 years. I have never heard you speak about the Knicks in this way. Never, 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 never. But I love it. I appreciate it. And you're 1000% correct. The depth of this Knicks team. There ain't no KD on this team.
Nope.
There ain't no Donovan Mitchell. There ain't no Embiid. There ain't no LeBron. There ain't none of that. But when you got 8, 9, sometimes 10 guys that you can rely on, sometimes that can get the job done over the best player. Donovan Mitchell is the best player in this series. But after that, every other advantage goes to the Knicks. JB Bickerstaff, he's still young in his coaching. This is his first playoff experience. He'll get better. But he's going up against a guy in Tibbs who's a 2-time coach of the year, who's been to multiple Eastern Conference championships, who's been on the bench for some teams that have gone to the finals, who's very seasoned. And Tibbs is out coaching him right now. When you got to show how different the Knicks have become and how the organizations, kudos to Leon Rose and Worldwide West for what they have built. They were patient through the draft. They've been patient through free agency. They haven't tried to hit home runs. They've been okay with hitting singles. If we just keep putting these singles together, it'll work out. And now you see it. 2 years ago, when the Hawks came in and beat us in 5 games, if Julius Randle had gone 3 for 15, we getting blown out by 25 points. We had nobody else. But tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, you had Quickly, who didn't play well, and he was a finalist for 6th Man of the Year. You had Julius Randle, who didn't play well, and Julius Randle was an all-star. But yet you get 18 points from Hart. You get the 20 plus from Brunson. You get 20 plus. You get 26 from RJ. You get Obi coming in. You get Mitchell Robinson as well. Deserves the kudos because Mitchell Robinson is in there battling Twin Towers, and somehow he keeps finding ways to get the rebound. He's battling Mobley and Allen, and yet it seems like every time if he don't get the rebound, he tries to keep the possession alive, and he's making it tougher for them. This team is way deeper than they were 2 years ago. I think this team is really good. I don't want to project and get too far ahead. I want to focus on this. As you mentioned, the Cavs looked defeated when they walked off the court. If anybody saw the game Friday, Donovan Mitchell still had that air of confidence. Like, all right, we're gonna come back and we're gonna do what we got to do. Every time they try to come back today, the Knicks had an answer, specifically Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett. And when Donovan Mitchell, when that final horn went off, he had that look like, yeah, we're in a lot of trouble now. This series, I think, is done. The Cavs averaged 116 points a game during the regular season. The Knicks have held them under 100 points in 3 of these 4 games in the series. The Knicks
Mhm.
defense has been legit. The Knicks defense has been tough. The Knicks are going to end this series. I think it ends Wednesday night, Trip. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't mind if it comes back to the Garden and ends there. But I think Wednesday night it's over.
Let me say two more things. Okay, one, that game 3 victory. Um, the Cleveland Cavaliers became the only team this season to score less than 80 points. That's an attribute to the Knicks defense. That's number one. Number two, you spoke about coaching and the levels difference between the two head coaches. I also have to give flowers to Coach Tibbs for not putting Julius Randle back in the game in the fourth quarter when a lot of coaches would say, you know what, now I got to go back to my star. The guy he got us here, we got to do. No, he stuck with the guys who had the hot hand. He told he told Josh Hart on the bench. He said, "Listen, you're gonna get a minute and you going back in, okay?" Because he understood what was at stake here, and these guys are hot. Now, if guys started cooling off and missing shots and turning over the ball, then you go back to Julius Randle. I thought he made a great coaching decision, and I believe that decision is what allowed the Knicks to hold on and to win this game. And again, the Cavaliers look defeated. That's why I said I think this game is over in 5. This
Yeah,
series is over.
I think it's done. I think again to see the progression of some of these young guys, like I said, Mitchell Robinson, to see how much better he's gotten over the years. 2 years ago, Clint Capella had his way against Mitchell Robinson because Mitchell Robinson was too young. He couldn't handle that moment. Now you see Mitchell Robinson kind of doing the same thing to Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. They seem too young. They seem a step slow. They don't seem as physical. He knows what it takes. RJ Barrett scored a total of 21 points in the 2 games in Cleveland. You know how easy it would have been for him to get a little gun shy coming back home, knowing the crowd's going to be on you. Instead, he turned it up a notch and got even more aggressive at home.
Yep.
And you see it. That's what I love about this Knick team. There is a different attitude about them. I've been a lifelong Knick fan. Everybody's gonna say, "Oh, it feels like '90s Knicks." Yeah, because the defense and it's a deep team. But this team has its own personality. You can see it. Jalen Brunson loves the big moments. You can see it every time the game gets close. He gets into his bag like I'm gonna break this dude down and I'm gonna get to my spot on the court and score no matter who's guarding me. It don't matter who you throw at me. Mitchell, Garland, they've thrown Karis LeVert at him. They put Evan Mobley on him. It does not matter. Jalen Brunson's gonna get wherever he wants to get to. The Knicks have been phenomenal, and it's been a pleasure to watch this version of the New York Knicks.
Absolutely. Let's because we're gonna be in overtime today. But we got a couple of Eastern Conference series left that we got to get to. Let's start. I mean, Philly Brooklyn. I didn't expect much out of that series. The sweep is complete. The issue here is Joel Embiid's health. Moving forward, Doc Rivers said he's at about 50%. I don't care who you play in this next round. If Joel Embiid is not at least 85%, the Philadelphia 76ers are going home.
I, I
Unless Giannis can't come back, and then I think they might have
well,
a chance.
they
But
wouldn't get Giannis in them next. They would get Boston next,
Boston and
and
it's tough.
I think Embiid's got to be more than 85% to be honest, because I think Boston is the overall better team. And
Yes.
so you need the MVP version or the closest version of that Embiid to beat the Boston Celtics. On one hand, they took care of business. They swept. They did what they were supposed to do. But as you mentioned, you hope that he's as close to 100% by the time this next series starts, because this is the round that Doc Rivers has had the most trouble with as a head coach, getting out of the second round. This is the round where James Harden, the skeletons in his closet, the ghost of playoff past, continue to show up for James Harden, where he doesn't quite meet the intensity of that next round. And I was really expecting this to be a classic series, but if he's hurt, I mean, Boston's gonna get him up out of there early. In terms of Brooklyn, I gotta take this moment to take a shot at the Brooklyn Nets. I have to, because I remember when they got the 2 guys who are no longer there, the 2 guys who somehow played less games together, or when they had the 3, but the 2 guys who somehow played so many less games that people forget, and they think Miles Bridges and Cam Johnson have actually been better Nets than them. But remember when Brooklyn said we taking over the city? Remember when Brooklyn said it's no longer a Nicktown? That
Yeah.
never happened. That never
No,
happened.
it didn't happen. It didn't
And there
happen.
was a lot of empty seats at Barclays for Game 3 and Game 4. A lot of empty seats.
It was. We should have went to that game. We could have got some good seats for cheap.
A lot of good seats. They were giving away things. Just please, just come sit down. Just sit down, please.
You want to sit courtside? All right, come on, man. We just
Yeah,
take them.
please.
Just go ahead. Nah, yeah, it got ugly fast. Only good thing is moving forward, they got a lot of picks. Thank you, Boom Man, Macau Bridges.
Yeah,
So
I always say I said Miles Bridges last time too. It is Mikal. My fault.
yeah, appreciate you, man. Yeah, I think the best thing for Philadelphia moving forward is if Atlanta can extend the series. Right now, the series is 2-1, and they're playing right now. Celtics are up by 12. I don't see this going. If the Celtics continue and win this game, this thing is over once they get back to Boston. For game 5, Boston ain't losing in the TD Garden. So that thing is it's gonna be over with. And then it's like, all right, now the series is gonna start sooner rather than later. Whereas if Atlanta can manage to steal another game and extend the series a little bit longer, that'll be a help because you can get Embiid a little bit more rest. Hopefully, you can get him as close to that 90-95% mark that you referring to, Eric. But other than that, I don't know. I moving forward, and it sucks because again, you know I talk about this all the time. We don't like seeing teams not at full strength in the playoffs. We want to see the best talent on the floor, and yeah, Embiid is going to be on the floor, but if he's not capable to play at the MVP level, that we've come to know and love, that series is going to be easy. It's going to be a quick one. So I hope he can get better. Hope the guy, hopefully, you know, maybe if one of women of prayer, Atlanta can extend this series. But I don't see that happening. So it's gonna be tough for Philadelphia moving forward. Um, Bucks, Milwaukee, Giannis went down in game 1. I'm surprised Miami isn't up 3-0 right now in this series. Um, Giannis is getting closer to returning, but it's not guaranteed that he'll be back for game 4. Fortunately for them, they did win one game already. So if they can just hold on a little bit longer and Giannis can come back, I think they still have a chance to take this game to 7 games. And if they can get it to 7, I think the Bucks win a game 7 at home. But we got to get Giannis back on the court first.
Yeah, as of right now, he's listed as doubtful. So obviously, come game time tomorrow, we'll know more about if he's going to play or not. But this is a tough spot to be in. Down 2-1 on the road, as I've already mentioned, road players normally don't play as well on the road. There will be a different energy in that building tomorrow for Miami because they're going to smell blood in the water, especially if Giannis doesn't play. They're going to know there's an opportunity to really take advantage and jump out 3-1, and then just all you got to do is find a way to just win one more the rest of the way. But it's tough, man. You want Giannis out there. We don't know how injured he is, how much mobility he has right now with that back injury. Um, Milwaukee is the better team. I think Milwaukee, when fully healthy, is the best team in the league. But right now, Miami's just they caught a massive break. Best player in the game is out, and they're taking advantage.
Yeah. So it is what it is. We're gonna see, man. If Miami go on to win this series, though, that's my second home, Eric. I might have to get on down there.
It's I'm super conflicted about this because I if the Knicks advance, which it looks like they will, the Knicks would play the winner of the series. So as much as I hate Miami because of our rivalry dating back to the 90s and early 2000s with them, Miami is a much easier series for us than a healthy Giannis and the Bucks. So now
I'm gonna be honest with you. If Giannis doesn't come back and Miami beats the Bucks, I have no problem saying that the Knicks will be in the Eastern Conference Finals.
my God, I don't even want to.
All right, yo, who is this guy? I gotta look around. Who is this man?
I'm just saying. Listen,
That's that's it,
I'm,
Eric.
I,
That's
I can
it.
send you. Listen, hold on. I can send you the visual proof. But there was one night when I was 2 drinks past where I should have been that that I actually placed a futures bet on the Knicks going to the finals,
Mm.
and that's the only reason I'm like, if it plays out that way and the Knicks get Miami, and then it starts to look like, wait a minute, there's a path here that like you said, at the very least, you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you never know, anything can happen at that point. But Miami, Milwaukee, like I said, I'm conflicted. I want Giannis. I want the best version of the Bucks to be available to
Yes,
play.
absolutely.
But from a selfish Nick perspective, I want Miami to take advantage and try to move on so we can get Miami.
Listen, if that happens, I might have to hit up the Garden and then go to Miami.
And listen, it's gonna sound the same because New York fans take over down there too. It's gonna sound
Exactly.
exactly the same.
And we got to connect down in Miami, so
That's a
it might have
fact.
to go down. It might be lit out there. Really quick before we get to some NFL stuff, let me shout out a couple of award winners. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies has officially been named Defensive Player of the Year. And for the second time now, Sacramento Kings coach Mike Brown is coach of the, well, it was not second time with the Kings, but his second time winning the award. Mike Brown is named Coach of the Year. Congratulations to both of those gentlemen. Definitely well deserved. What Mike Brown has done with the Sacramento Kings this season, getting them back to the playoffs for how long was it?
14 years. First time in
Yeah, okay.
14 years.
Yeah. So congrats to that. And Jaren Jackson Jr. definitely steps his game up on way up on the defensive end this year, putting him, in some good company with some former big men that have won Defensive Player of the Year awards, Dwight Howard, Rudy Gobert, Ben Wallace. He's in some good company. That's a great award to win. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Well deserved by all those guys.
All right, now let's talk some football. Uh, we'll start with the Eagles. Since that's I guess the biggest contract talk. Jalen Hurts gets his new deal. Which now we're gonna have to go back to Lamar Jackson. And see what's going on with that. But congratulations to Jalen Hurts. Uh, definitely well deserved that contract because he has gotten better every year for the Philadelphia Eagles, leading them to a Super Bowl this year. Obviously, we know
Trip froze up, so let's see if we can get him back in here. But I'll take it from there. Yeah, so Jalen Hurts getting a new massive deal. Obviously, the Lamar conversation will continue to come up now that Jalen Hurts got it paid, and everybody's going to want to know what's going to happen with Lamar. I think for the Eagles, they did it the right
I
way. They took care of this.
think we good
Oh, you
now.
back, Trip? All right, we got you back.
Eric,
Trip, can you hear me?
yo,
Yeah, you're a little choppy there. Yeah,
Eric back.
Trip, let me know. Let me know if you can
Yo,
hear me.
yo,
You hear me? We good? Yeah, he's still having some connection issues, but yeah, as I mentioned, the Eagles took care of this early. Um, And in turn, I think Jalen Hurts has done them a little bit of a favor as well. Because when you look at the way the contract is structured, Jalen Hurts really doesn't start seeing over $30 million a year until year 3. So it gives them some
yo,
flexibility.
yo, yo.
You hear me now? Yo, Trip. Uh, bear with us, guys. Trip, let me know if you hear me, man. But yeah, as I mentioned, it gives them some flexibility, which in turn it looks like they're trying to use on some other pieces
There
to
we go.
bring in.
I think we're
We
back
good?
now.
Okay. Trip,
Yep,
let
I
me
can hear
know.
you. Okay,
All
there we
right.
go.
All right.
Okay, we're good now. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was saying, definitely well deserved for Jalen Hurts. It's not easy by any means getting a team to the Super Bowl, win or lose. It's a huge accomplishment. And being in the MVP conversation pretty much the whole season up until he got injured and missed those couple of games. But he was definitely in the mix of the MVP voting this year as well. So congratulations to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, kudos to him. Well deserved. I think the Eagles deserve credit here as well. As I was saying, they took care of this pretty quick, getting him his money and locking him in as the franchise quarterback. And in turn, he took care of them because when you look at the breakdown of that contract, he really doesn't start seeing $30 million per year until year three of the deal, which gives him some cap flexibility over the next couple years. And that's why you hear the uh, the rumblings about possibly Derrick Henry
Hmm.
joining him in Philly, and also Buda Baker, who's another guy who they've been linked to it as far as talking trade. So they're not done trying to upgrade the roster, but more importantly, they took care of the most important position.
Absolutely. And again, take notes, Baltimore Ravens. You should have been did this. We wouldn't be in this situation. The only bright side of this whole thing is that the Ravens brought Odell Beckham Jr. to the squad, but we don't know who's going to be throwing the football to Odell Beckham Jr. I did see them on FaceTime, which I think is a positive sign. But again, as of right now, we don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. So, yeah, you went out and you finally listened because I've been saying this, you've been saying this, we've been saying this for a couple of years now. You finally went out and got yourselves the number one wide receiver for your young quarterback, your young MVP quarterback now, but you don't have your young MVP quarterback. So I don't know what the heck is going to go on with this Lamar Jackson thing at this point. We got the NFL draft coming up later this week, Thursday night. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more trades going on, on draft day. One question for you, Eric. Um, Arizona has the number 3 seed. There's a lot of teams that would love to trade up for a quarterback. Um, do you think Arizona trades back and tries to get a haul for that number 3 pick?
I think they will. I think they're going to try their best to trade out of that spot. The problem is going to be obviously what they're looking to get in return, and then also depending on um, the order of one and two. I think we know who's going one and two, but you could get a curveball. You could get the Texans who maybe select a guy we haven't really talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe you get the Texans who say, "Hey, we're not gonna take a quarterback at number two, and maybe we're gonna trade back a little bit and take somebody later on." So I think Arizona does try to trade out of it. I just don't think it will happen before the draft. I think draft night is when you'll see. Once we see who number one is, once we see who number two is, then everybody going all in trying to move up because the Colts are taking a quarterback at four.
Yeah. And again, if they do trade back for them, I would hope they put themselves in a position to still be able to draft Will Anderson Jr.
Nah,
because
it ain't
because
happening.
and that's the thing. Because I mean, to be honest with you, he may just be the best player in this draft. Obviously, we know the importance of the quarterback position. And realistically, if we're talking about in comparison to everybody not named Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, realistically, these other two guys, I mean, I don't even think it's close. Like, if you, this is a generational talent with Will Anderson Jr. on the defensive side of the football, and whoever's if the Cardinals trade themselves out of a chance to get him, whoever does get that young man is going to have a future franchise defensive player. I guess the comparison in recent draft would be Micah Parsons. He's one of those guys. So whoever gets him, if it's not the Cardinals, they are going to be in luck. Because again, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, if the Cardinals trade out of that spot, you got to remember, um, you got the Colts and you got the Seahawks kind of right there lurking. I don't think he would get past the Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't
If
think
the
so.
Colts can't take a quarterback, he's definitely not getting past the Seahawks. Um, I mean, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I said if the Colts take a quarterback, then he won't
Yeah.
get past the Seahawks. But if the Colts don't get a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts take him at number four and then just revisit the quarterback position later in the draft.
Yeah. Well, and again, because if the Colts do go quarterback and then the Seahawks up on the clock, they just re-signed Geno Smith, who had a really good season for them. Um, the other good thing to that is if you're the Seahawks, you kind of want Arizona to trade to trade backwards, so you do have a chance at Will Anderson Jr. because now you have an opportunity to let him learn from Bobby Wagner, who the Seahawks brought back and who was a key part of that defense. You're gonna have a really good veteran linebacker right alongside of him that can kind of help him and ease his way into his professional career.
Yeah, I mean the Seahawks have been looking for an edge rusher since Michael Bennett, and also remember the Seahawks used a lot of draft capital the last couple of years for their secondary, so they would love to address their D line and address getting a pass rusher.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you gotta listen. I'm looking forward to this draft. It's going down Thursday night. We may need to get a live in on Thursday for
I'm
the
with it.
draft before. Get
I'm
your
with
get
it.
your cup. Get your cup because it's gonna be a long night.
You know what? I'm with it. I mean, I can get home in time probably for like the middle of the first round,
Okay.
but we could maybe yeah we could probably do it because if the Knicks win on Wednesday night, I'm in party mode all weekend from that point on. So we get it going.
All right, bet. So let's look into doing that. Shout out to everybody that's checked in with us today on the live. Again, continue to send those questions in. We gonna get to all of them on the show. We definitely appreciate you guys. And we're gonna continue to bring our friends through every so often to chop it up, with you guys because I love how you guys interact with us and with our guests. Make sure that you guys are following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/ Real Fans Real Talk. And make sure you guys hit the website up for those of you who are not in the New York City area and you can't watch us Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. All you have to do is go to realfansrealtalk.com, click that red button on the homepage on Thursday nights at 8, and you can watch us from anywhere in the world. And you guys see the YouTube channel right there on the screen, youtube.com/ For the Fans Productions. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to both the Real Fans Real Talk and the Sanchez Show podcast. We're streaming on all major platforms, so keep yourselves in the loop, man, because we got a lot of stuff that's going on. Eric, give us a final thought, man.
As always, man, you guys could be anywhere in the world, but you're rocking with us, and we greatly appreciate it. Keep tuning in. We got some great stuff coming out for you guys, man. So keep locking in. I'm looking forward to seeing more questions and more comments. And we'll be back, like I said, definitely next week, but possibly even Thursday during the draft.
Yes, sir. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games, we up out of here. Peace.